Hello and welcome to The Social Connection. I am your host, Luis Mendieta, and today we have a great person, which is Amy Abler. Amy, how you doing today? How are you?
Great. It's so good to see you.
Well, I'm nice seeing you too, and I want you to tell us exactly what you do. She's a pianist. She plays beautifully, but she plays in places that you cannot imagine. She will tell us the story about that, but before we start, how do you get into playing the piano?
Well, I started when I was only 5, actually 4. I think I took my first lesson, and I was running all over the house. I was one of those kids with way too much energy, so my mom put me in dance lessons and piano lessons and every kind of lesson, and I took to it immediately. I just loved to play from the very first day.
Wow, that's amazing. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes, I have one younger brother.
Okay.
And so he also played, not as intensely as I did, but he also became a very good pianist along the way. Yeah.
Now, do you got this because of your parents or anyone who actually loved playing music? Or?
Yeah, well, actually, my dad is also a musician. He's a great singer. He plays guitar. He actually does his own little shows. And my mom is a great music appreciator. I think she studied violin or something, but yeah, she's more of our manager. And I have a lot of relatives who loved music. My grandmother was a church organist, and my grandfather was a barbershop singer, and he was a barber. Wow. And they had a barbershop quartet that would sing in the barbershop.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is interesting. This is very interesting.
Yeah.
Do you ever went to see him perform?
Well, no, the quartet had disbanded by the time I was born,
Oh,
unfortunately.
okay.
But, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So tell us about things that you have done already. I mean, where did you move up after when you were little, and how did you start playing music and people getting to see what you do?
Right. Well, I obviously was taking the lessons, and along the way there's always that point where people get really busy and quit their piano lessons, you know? And I was lucky because I had a wonderful teacher whose name was Sylvia Hayes, and she was very, very, she allowed you to do other things. She wasn't strict and mean. Like you hear a lot of people had those strict and mean teachers, and I was lucky because I had one who allowed me to be a person too. And I still just always loved to play, so I pushed through that difficult time and kept playing. And then you start entering like young person competitions. And I started to do pretty well in those. Actually, I would win the youth orchestra competition, or at least place high enough to be able to do a concert with the local orchestra. And so that's very exciting when you're a kid and you have the symphony orchestra playing behind you, you know?
Oh, yes, I'm sure. Now, are you original from Michigan?
I am. I grew up in Mount Pleasant, which of course, you know, is up here in the middle. Michigan people, we always show you where we live on the hand, and so.
Well, that's excellent.
Yeah.
After you already start learning how to play the piano, do you ever thought that you could do something with that in the future?
You know, I didn't really know. I think my teacher, I found out later, my teacher told my parents that I had it, whatever that was, and that I could go wherever I wanted to with it. I didn't know. I mean, by the time I graduated high school, I knew I wanted to keep studying piano, but I also thought I wanted to double major pre-med. So you can imagine how insane that is, trying to be a piano performance major and pre-med, because I also was very much into the sciences and academics and all that. So yeah, I didn't know exactly what it was going to be, but I will never forget, I was at my audition at the Eastman School of Music, and I didn't end up going there, but they offered me a nice scholarship. I remember at that audition, the man who runs the place said, I gave him my dilemma. I said, I don't know what to do. Should I be a doctor? Should I be a musician? I don't know. And he said, if I were you, I would study piano right now and get your hands in shape. Because if you get your technique in shape right now, it will be there for the rest of your life. And then you can go study medicine, you can do whatever you want. So it made me realize it's like an athlete. You know, you get the muscles in shape, and then you have them.
And then you can do pretty much anything.
And
it's just like people say, you know,
true.
people who do like play a sport, like soccer or something like that, they could become a good dancers. Because the way they move all the time and the things that they do. So I believe that about the fingers, you know, being able to do that, you'll be able to do and create a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us about what you're doing and how do you get into what you're doing right now?
Right. Well, it's kind of an interesting story, so I'll go back to where I left off. I was in high school, classical pianist, decided to get my classical, performance degree, and of course, I grew up in Michigan here, and studied and auditioned everywhere. So of course, naturally, you would assume off I would go to the University of
Michigan.
Yeah, of
course.
But instead, I went to the University of Illinois.
Oh, okay.
Which was a big upset. It was just one of those things where I went down there and found a teacher I really wanted to study with. Because when you're a music student, the overall college program is important, but that teacher is your mentor. And I had not just one, but two mentors while I was down at Illinois. The first one was William Hylas, and the second one was Ian Hobson. And so I went down there and studied and just felt very, very supported and nurtured. One of the great things was Ian Hobson was married to a woman named Claude Hobson, who is also a very well-renowned pianist. They would travel all over the world and give these concerts, and they had 6 kids.
Oh, wow.
So the first time I went to a holiday party for all the university students at their house, I looked around at all of these musicians, and I ended up upstairs jumping on the beds with the kids. And the next day, their mom said, "Do you babysit?"
Oh, okay.
So they kind of took me in as one of the family,
Right.
I would take care of the kids, and we would put on little shows in the kitchens, and the older ones would videotape the younger ones, and it was wonderful.
You probably have a lot of good times.
Yeah.
A lot of good times
Yeah.
and fun, and especially being that type of people who
Yeah.
can play all this beautiful instrument, and you are part of that family.
Yes,
So I'm sure that
definitely.
you learn a lot of things from them.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, it was great. So I was there in classical music, but I still didn't know exactly what to do because a lot of the people who are in the classical world, not all of them obviously, are kind of stiff and boring, if you know what I mean. There's a lot of fun ones in there, but there's a lot of ones that are it's very serious and very intense and competitive. And as you can tell, that's never really sort of been my thing. Yeah. I just love to play. I don't want to, stab somebody else in the back and try to beat them. So, so I ended up, interestingly, going back to when I was at Mount Pleasant High School, I did what a lot of people do, where I was in the shows. They have musicals. And so I would always audition, and I can sing as well, and so I would be in the shows. I was never one of the big stars of the show, but I liked to be there, and I would often teach other people their music if they needed help.
Okay.
So then, when I was at university, when I was 19, the phone rang one day and they said, "Oh, could you come and music direct this show? You come highly recommended."
Wow.
And I said, "Well, yeah, I'd love to." And I hung up the phone and I thought, well, how can I be highly recommended? I've never done that before. So I found out later another guy wanted to take another job, so he just looked me up in the book and my name started with an A.
And that's how you got highly recommended.
That's how I got highly recommended. My great theater career began because of my name starts with an A.
Well,
so
good.
that was great. So I started music directing all of the local shows. So I started from the community theater, worked my way to the semi-professional theater, started to work at the more professional theaters. I graduated and moved up to Chicago, which is where everybody from University of Illinois is from anyway. And then I started working for all of the little theaters there, the small theaters, the medium size, and then I started working for the really big theaters. And by this point, I had developed a reputation as a musical director, and I just learned it all on the job. You have to teach all the singing, handle all the orchestra. I would change the orchestrations because often I didn't have the budget to hire the full orchestra. So then here we are just making things up. And it was just amazing. I mean, there was one time we were doing a show at a very small theater that was so low budget that it was winter and my piano was jammed up against the back wall and there was a crack and there was snow blowing in through the thing on my head while I'm playing the piano. It was just
if it wasn't Christmas time, it would have been the perfect time for you to sing Christmas songs.
It was, I know. So yeah, but it was a great show, So
well, that's good.
it was good. So there I was in Chicago. I started doing theater, and that's where my life took a really big turn because eventually those Broadway companies come through town, and they hire local musicians to play. And so, by then I was this big deal in Chicago, but the people in Broadway don't know me.
Right.
And my very first job to play for those Broadway shows was as a walker, which means that on Saturday night they have often people who want to go and do other jobs, and the contract says you have to have a minimum number of union musicians.
Right.
So my job was to go in and sit and do nothing and fill the union contract so they had enough bodies on the premises.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's where can you get the kind of job?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You know, the only way I got that job was because I was actually dating somebody who was one of the guys that they normally called to get that job. And so the guy he was filling in for went to do another job. He actually played the show, and then I was substituting sitting for him.
For him, that's good.
But it was very much out of a movie how I got my big break. It was just one of those things where the guy who was playing the matinee made the conductor angry for something he had done or not done, and he turned to me and said, "Can you go on tonight?" And I said, "Yes." And so I went down and I played it, and I'd really practiced the part because I wanted to be ready. Yeah, even though the guy I was dating at the time said, "Now, honey, you know you're never actually going to play the show." And I said, "Well, I want to be ready."
Right.
So I played the show, and afterwards the conductor looked at me and said, "Oh, I forgot there was a substitute." So apparently
that
I did
was
well.
a big break right there for you.
Big break. Then they found out I had all of this musical directing experience. So before long, the Broadway companies were calling from New York and hiring me to go out on the road as the musical director of national Broadway tours.
Well,
And that was...
It's amazing. It's amazing the story, just especially you not knowing what you were going to get into because you were just there.
Yeah.
But timing means everything.
It does.
So I'm sure that's what happened to you.
Yeah, it was. It felt very sort of meant to be, you know? And so then I was out there, and this is the part everyone's really interested in. I was already musical director of, I think it was Annie Get Your Gun at that time. And the person who hires me called me and said, "Well, I have this show. I know you really want to do this. But the musical director job isn't open, so you're going to have to start over again at the bottom, playing keyboard 4. But we'll work you up, you know, as the jobs open up." I said, "Great, what's the show?" He said, "Mamma Mia."
Wow.
So I got to go out on the road with Mamma Mia. That is the most famous show I've ever played.
Totally.
Yeah. And I did work my way up until I was associate conductor, and that was just...
That's just incredible. It's an incredible story.
Yeah.
So what happened after that?
Well, so then I did that show for a while, and destiny intervened again. I was coming up to where I had performed almost 1,000 shows of Mamma Mia, you know, various keyboards, conducting, all these things. I had been all over the United States and parts of Canada. It was amazing. And I really wanted to go see the rest of the world. And they had a tour of Mamma Mia that was going to, you know, because they had the production in London for a long time, but they were going to send a tour out through Europe. And I contacted everyone I knew. I said, "Oh, I really want to go tour Europe." And they said, "No, we're only hiring British musicians for that tour." And I was just devastated because I thought, "Oh my gosh, I have to go back to all these places I've already been, and I need an adventure." And we were in Miami. It was right before there was one of those hurricanes had come through, so we had to evacuate. And since we weren't doing the show, I went and had lunch with a friend at the Cheesecake Factory on Las Olas Boulevard in Fort Lauderdale. It's one of those moments. And we were having lunch, and he just stopped me and said, "You're in the wrong career." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "No, you're a great conductor and everybody loves you, but your back is to the audience, you're down in the pit, you're not on stage." And I said, "I do not want to be an actress. I have never wanted to do that. I just want to be myself." He said, "Yes, what you need to do is put together your own one-woman show, and you play whatever music you want, you tell whatever jokes you want, and then you go and you pitch it to be a guest performer on the cruise ships."
Wow.
And I said, "Oh yeah, but I don't want to be in the lounge. I don't want to take requests. You know, I don't know a million songs like that." He said, no, this is not in the lounge. This is on the big stage. They have a house band of about 5 to 9 performers. You give them the charts, they will read the music, and you will be the big star of the evening of whatever that cruise is. And then you go to another ship and you do the same thing the next week. And I thought, that exists? Yeah, I didn't even know. That's the kind of
job that you get, yes.
Yeah, and he said, "This is a very hard job to get." And he said, "You are perfect for it. You just go out there and be yourself, and they're just going to love you."
So how do you get that job?
Well, I made the show, which I guess is the part that's hard for a lot of people, is to put together a show. But since I had all this music directing experience, that's fine. I'm used to telling people where to stand and what timing will work and how to make the orchestrations work for the band, and done. You know, I just had to put myself in the middle. So I did that, got some, you know, flashy, sparkly costumes, and the person who told me that I should do that actually knew somebody. I sent them like an audition reel, and boom, there I
That
was.
it.
Yeah.
And that's how you started.
I did. I found out later it's incredibly hard, and people couldn't believe
Yes.
how easily I jumped
But
in.
see, that shows that everything is possible in life.
Yeah.
A lot of people sometimes when all the doors close, they think that there's nothing up there.
Yeah.
But you never know
Yep.
when something is going to just be right in front of your own,
Yeah.
eyes. So that's incredible. Tell me about the cruise ship.
Yeah.
What kind of lifestyle do people have, especially like you being in a cruise ship?
Yeah, well, it depends. I'm lucky. I would argue that I probably have the best job on the ship, and that includes the captain, because the captain has a lot of responsibility and pressure. I have a lot of pressure, but nobody's going to die if I mess up, you know?
If it is, it's laughing. But it's about it.
Oh, yes. You're good.
I mean, what else can happen?
Yeah. So, but it is really good because since I'm a featured guest artist, I'm not considered officially part of the crew unless I'm working there. I'm considered like a contractor. So I go on board the ship, they fly me in, they pay for the flight, I get on board, and I'm put in a room that is either a passenger cabin or the equivalent of a passenger cabin that might be just behind a crew door. And the reason they do that is because they really want to attract people who have a career and have some credibility. And they can't just have somebody who's been performing on Vegas and then come in and put them down in the pit or down in the under areas where the rest of the crew lives, because it's too much of a shock. Now there are a lot of fine high-class performers who do choose to take a crew contract and are living sort of below where I think they should be living, but at least they know about it ahead of time.
Right.
But anyway, with us, it's kind of like if they wanted to hire Madonna, it would cost them millions of dollars.
Right.
But instead, they can have me for within their budget.
Well, Madonna, I'm sure
I'm a lot less controversial than Madonna.
I'm sure they probably should be jealous of being part of the crew, because what happens to you during the day? Do you perform at the day, at nighttime? When do you perform?
Since I'm a featured act, I'm on once, maybe twice a week in the evening after dinner. Anybody who's taken a cruise knows that they kind of have you on a routine, and there's musicians everywhere, different times of the day. But after dinner, there's a big concert in the big theater, and it changes every night.
Oh.
So one night it's the production company of the dancers and singers who are in residence on the ship. One night it's a magician. One night it's a stand-up comedian. One night it's an opera singer, and one night it's me.
Hey, there we go.
Yeah.
So what do you do during those times that you're not performing?
Yeah, I mostly sleep. Because to tell you the truth, a lot of the times we have flown halfway around the world to join that ship. And it's usually in the middle of the cruise. We're not on for the whole journey. So there have been times where I have literally flown exactly halfway around the world, and I have a concert the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever got seasick?
I don't get seasick. I get sleepy.
Oh.
I'm so lucky. Some people
Really?
get really nauseous. I just curl up in my bed. Although not for long, because what often happens is if the ship is in rough seas and the production cast was supposed to do a show, all the dancers will say, "We can't go on, we'll break an ankle." And they say, "Well, let's put the pianist on. She's sitting down." Like I have to hit
She's the
any of
one
the
who
right
can
notes.
perform.
Who cares about that, right? So yeah.
So you're the one who can perform regardless whether the piano's going this way, it's coming that way.
Oh my God. I had one time, I was on this ship, and the smaller ships rock a lot more than the big ships. So once I was on this smaller ship, it was a luxury ship, and we hit a wave, and we tilted so hard to the side, that's called listing, during my concert, and I was playing Flight of the Bumblebee, and the piano started to scoot away down the stage, and I was running after it, trying to play Flight of the Bumblebee, and it was insane. Yeah.
I'm sure that you have your moments
Yeah.
that you kind of wonder what you're actually doing there.
Yeah.
But also, the fun part is, tell me, what kind of food you get to eat there?
Okay. Well, once again, I'm lucky. I get to eat the same food the passengers eat. I mostly eat in the buffet, just because fine dining when you're on vacation and having all of those courses served to you is lovely when you're on vacation. And when it's your life, you just want to eat and be done. So, but the rest of the crew, it depends on what sort of job you have. Some of them have special dining rooms called the crew mess underneath. And the food down there is not as good, obviously, but it's, it's
Is it
edible.
tempting for you not to go through the dessert?
Oh my gosh, it's impossible. It's impossible.
Because I can imagine all the
It's
food that they
really-
have there all the time.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because if you go up to the gym on the ship any evening when everybody else is on vacation down in the dining room, everybody who's not working, who's on the crew or on the staff, is up in the gym.
Oh boy.
Because if you don't, you will weigh 5,000 pounds.
No, I'm sure. I'm
Yeah,
sure. I'm sure.
yeah.
So, what type of performance do you do when you're there?
Well, I'm what I call a classical crossover. In fact, I tell people I'm a recovering classical concert pianist. You know, it's like my little 12-step program is.
Yes.
So I play a lot of classical music in my show to show that I have the technique, but I mix it together with a lot of other things. So, like the first piece will be like. I don't know, a swing medley, Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and stuff like that. And then the second piece will be a Rachmaninoff concerto. And then the third piece will be, you know, Jerry Lee Lewis rock and roll. And then the fourth piece will be a Mamma Mia medley. And then the fifth piece is me just improvising, you know, whatever.
So you do kind of like a little bit of Liberace, a little bit
yes.
and then you get to some Richard, Klinman or something like that, or
Yes.
somebody else is playing the piano.
Yeah, it's a lot based on Liberace.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it, yeah. Not what he did, but that style of concert.
Right, the style of concert.
He's the one who made that style of concert possible, really. He's kind of the one who put it out there and said classical music can be fun, you know.
Wow.
And obviously Victor Borge, who was quite a lot
Victor Borge, yes.
older than Liberace, but really brought the humor into
humor.
it. And so both of them, and also some of the more contemporary people who are doing that.
So what you actually did, you took all those pieces
Yeah.
from Liberace, everybody, and just put it into your own show.
I did, except I made my own arrangements. So I don't do their arrangements. Like, you know, I decided a lot of people were doing country music, and that's not really my thing. So I went and found all of the movie music from the Wild West, the old movies, and like, The Lone Ranger. That's actually a piece of classical music, and the theme from the Copeland Rodeo. That's like the beef. What's for dinner commercial from the '80s. So I took all that music people would have heard and made it into this big colossal medley, and I played that in my show, and people love it.
The only time that I heard something like that, it was Hooked on Classics.
Yes.
And that was from Lewis Clark.
Yeah.
Who actually played that kind of music.
Yes.
Who were playing it in classical, and it was upbeat.
Yes.
But it was fun.
It is
It was
fun.
a fun way to hear something like this.
Yes, that is a really good point, because I love those Hooked on Classics albums, and I did listen to them while I was researching. But since they come from a certain era, there's an awful lot of disco happening.
Oh, of course. They come out with a lot of the sounds and everything like that, because at the time it used to be for people to listen to the type of music.
Yes.
But of course they were trying to do that. Actually, the very first one who came, it was the Fifth of Beethoven.
Yes.
And that was a classic on disco.
Yes.
Of course. We're
Yes.
not talking about how old we are,
Yeah,
but we're just
yeah.
talking a little bit of what we do.
Yeah, history.
History, that's it. A little bit of history here. So, so now you're playing, and in your show you do a little bit of comedy too,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
What can you tell us about that?
Well, that just sort of happened. I never thought of myself as a comedian. I just thought of myself as sort of just a personality. So I would just, do whatever came to mind, and then people would laugh. And then I thought, okay, remember that you said that, they laughed. And so I started out a lot more serious. Now I have a lot more just little stories, little jokes, just things to tie it together and, make everyone realize this is not a serious concert.
Yes, I know.
So-
And I'm sure that a lot of people had a great time here. Now, when you are playing, do the people are having dinner or something, or they just come in there to see you?
Yep.
Or what kind of environment is that?
It's a concert.
It's a concert.
So, yes, so they've already had dinner, and then they come down, and it's a big theater. I mean, I've played to over 1,000-seat theaters on some of these
Wow.
ships. I've played on the Queen Mary 2 and on the Allure of the Seas, the biggest ship in the world. And
Yeah, that's something important I would
Yeah.
like to know. Tell us a little bit of
Yeah.
the names of that. I mean, I know you mentioned a couple,
Yeah.
but this is good. I mean, you can be to a little ship to a large ship.
That's right.
It has so
My
many people.
first ship was the Paul Gauguin, which is was a tiny little ship, only 320 guests, and they only sail around in Tahiti.
Okay.
So there we were, you know, stranded in Tahiti, going nowhere else. It's, you know,
And I am sure that you have so many stories about the places that you have been, and you probably have your heart been stolen, and some of the views and everything that you've seen in places like that. Because there are parts of the world that we don't get to see, but you being part of the ship and going around, you get to see all those things.
Yeah.
I want you to tell me, what are we going to see? Because I know you're going to show us some things that you have done, little bits and pieces of this. But what is it that we're going to see in this video that you have provided for us here?
Yeah. Well, it's sort of when people want to see whether they want to hire you, they want to see a variety of things that you've done. So I'm going to just show you little clips of some videos we've taken of me in concert, and so there will be a little bit of me playing, you know, some beautiful slow classical music. A lot of times I just improvise when I'm up there. So like one of my favorite things is to play Pachelbel's Canon in D, which everybody loves that piece. And then it sounds like a lot of other pop music, so I'll just play whatever comes into my head, and it's different every show. So a little bit of that'll be in there, and some of the classical things. And then one of the things that I am also known for is I'm the lady who plays the piano with every part of her body. This was just a joke that somebody dared me to do.
Okay.
And it's sort of a rock and roll medley, and then it just gets a little bit crazy at the end. So there it is.
Well,
yeah.
Let's watch it. I guess I'm ready to see something different, something exciting. So if you're all ready, let's all watch it.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, hello, everybody! Oh, I am so excited to see all you out here. And let me tell you what, I don't know if you realize it or not, but you have all just landed right in the middle of Piano Diva-licious. Oh, I know. It's exciting. Now, there's the piano, and I'm the diva. So you must all be licious. Thank you.
Well, this was beautiful. It's incredible. I cannot believe that you have that energy.
Yeah.
You are full of energy, especially with what you do. And I'm sure that everyone get to enjoy what they're seeing. And I personally enjoy having you here with us today. And this is amazing. I want to ask you one question, though.
Sure.
Do you read notes?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
But you tell me that you do improvisation, right? You improvise a lot.
I do, yes.
So do you use your notes when you are doing it, or it just comes out of nowhere?
No. You know, anyone who's taken piano lessons, you know how your teacher always told you to practice your scales and practice your chords? That's why. That's how you memorize music.
Okay.
That gives you little signposts so you know where you are. And so, yeah, when I'm in concert, I never have any music. It's always all from memory.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is Amy Abler. Thank you once again for watching The Social Connection. I am your host, Luis Mendieta. Thank you.